Hello world, Liu here, and today we'll be talking about 6 things that I never knew about pandas until recently. Firstly, we'll talk about inverting using the tilde symbol. So let's first create our data frame, and here we have it, we have our data frame. So next, notice that there are some none values here. So if you're not familiar with this, none stands for not a number. So next, let's say we want to remove these non-values. So here, we can first do this, and we'll get this, and we use the is na. So here we have false, false, true, false, true. And if we take this and put inside df and index it, we are going to get the rows where there are none. However, we want the rows that are not none. And here we can use the tilde to invert our query. Over here, I'm going to add a tilde and I'm going to run this. So here, notice that I've just inverted my query, and now I have the rows that do not contain any none in the A column. So just to inspect this, I'm going to remove the outer query. And here we have true, true, false, true, false. And if we remove this, we are going to get the exact opposite, false, false, true, false, and true. So once again, I'm going to add my df query back, and we are going to get this. So this tilde symbol can be quite useful if we want to convert all true values to false and vice versa. So note that we cannot use not here, and we must use a tilde instead. Number 2, we have applying a function using the .apply method. So let's say we have a normal data frame, and we wish to square every number in the B column. So here, let's try to extract this first. So df index B, and we are going to get 2, 5, and 8. And here, I can use the .apply method to apply a function to every value in this column. So I'm going to apply square, and square is a function here. Since we haven't defined it, let's do that. So define square. So it takes in a x, and it returns a x square. So if I run this, I'm going to square every value in B. So instead of 2, 5, and 8, now we have 4, 25, and 64. So here, I'm going to set B is equals to this in order to override our df. And if we print our df right now, we are going to have the B column squared. So another advantage of this is that we can use a lambda function here. So we do not need to necessarily define a square function if we don't want to. So next, I'm going to replace this square function with a lambda function. So I'm going to get rid of this, and using the lambda keyword, x colon x to the power of 2. And I can remove my square. And this will give us the same result. So another advantage that the .apply method has is that we can apply a more complicated function if we want to. So let's say we remove this and we add a test method. And so let's define test. So it takes in an x, and we can do a bunch of other stuff to our value in multiple lines. So let's say if x is equals to 2, return 2, else return something. So if we run this, we are going to get 2, something, and something. So with the .apply method, we can actually use a more complicated function. Number 3, transposing a data frame. So first, let's create a test data frame. And here we have a test data frame. So next, we can actually transpose this data frame and swap the columns and the rows. So we can simply do that by doing this. So now, notice that the index and the column has been swapped. So let's display both of them, and we can see the difference. So this method is useful if you want to switch the columns and rows inside a data frame. Number 4, the toClipboard method. So this method actually allows us to copy our entire data frame into our clipboard. So I'm going to demonstrate this. So first, let's create a data frame. And here we have it. So next, I'm going to use the toClipboard method. So toClipboard, and I'm going to run this. And next, when I do a paste, which is Command V for Mac and Control V for Windows, I'm going to get this. So the reason why I'm able to paste this is due to the toClipboard method. So here, let's say we are going to add a fourth column is equals to 100, 200, 300, and let's say we run this. And next, without doing anything else, I'm just going to do a paste. And here we have it. Our entire data frame, which is formatted nicely, is actually on our clipboard. So this can be useful if you are doing some sort of reports for your data frames. Number 5, the inplace keyword argument. So firstly, let's define our data frame. And here, notice that we have a bunch of none values down there. So next, I'm going to call this method called dropNa. And we are going to get a version of the data frame where all the none values have been dropped. However, if we check our data frame again, it is still going to contain the none values. So that is why we usually do this. So df is equals to df dropNa. So after we run this, only then will df itself not contain the none values. So here, the dropNa value doesn't actually remove the none values in our data frame. Instead, it creates another exact copy of our entire data frame, but without the none values. So that's what is actually happening here. However, if we want our data frame to drop the values in itself, we can use the inplace keyword. So if I set inplace is equals to true, this will no longer create an exact copy of our data frame, but without the non-values. Instead, the non-values itself inside the data frame will disappear. So this inplace argument exists in many of Pandas methods, and this keyword will make it such that whatever change that the method does is applied to the data frame's values itself, rather than creating a new exact copy of the data frame. Number 6, renaming columns in our data frame using the .rename function. So let's say we have a random data frame here, and now instead of A, B, and C, I want to rename the columns as something else. So I can do that using the rename function. So df is equals to df.rename, and columns is equals to a dictionary. So this dictionary will contain the mappings of our column names. So let's say we want to replace A with apple. So if we run this, A will be replaced with apple. And let's say we want to replace C with cat. And now C will be replaced with cat. So this method is useful if you have a very large data frame with many columns and you simply wish to change only a few of the columns. So thanks for watching, and hopefully you have learned at least one new thing about Pandas today. See you in the next one.